You're listening to
Wrestling to the Max.
Alert, clear all channels.
This is an exclusive.
How you like that?
And your host, Gary Vaughn, Sean Garmer, and Paul Leeser.
King of Sport. New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Hello and welcome to another W2M Extra number 17. I will be talking about G1 Climax 25 nights 10 and 11, guys. Yes, I'm a little behind here, as it wasn't my fault this time, actually. This time it was actually New Japan World that they had a problem with night 10. They had a problem with it. Fun with the video where I didn't get to watch. It was the only show that I haven't been able to get up on time. I got up at like 7 instead of 5:30. I got up right in time for the intermission, and then I missed all the undercard matches for night 10. So I had to go back when I got home off work at like midnight and watch those. I stayed up till like 2 a.m. Finished the review, sent that in. It's been posted, the review for night 10. I slept about like an hour and a half, watched night 11, got the review out. It's not posted yet, but it's there in the system. I don't know if they're going to post it today or not. Hopefully they do, because I really don't want it to be old, even though they do take a break tomorrow. That being said, I am here to talk about nights 10 and 11. Before I get to that, though, again, these are special shows, extras that I'm doing to help recap the G1 Climax as it's going on. But we do a regular show on Thursday nights, 11 p.m. Eastern. If you want to listen live on Spreaker.com, we're up to episode 155 of the show. We will be doing a Triple Mania preview this week. We'll be talking about Raw, TNA, NXT, all that stuff that goes on. Lucha Underground's Ultima Lucha, their last show of the season, ROH TV, all that stuff. We'll be talking about it. We'll be talking about all the news that happened. We already did a tribute special to Roddy Piper. We normally don't do those kinds of things. With the Dusty Rhodes, it kind of happened, like, I think, the morning of that we were supposed to do the podcast, so we went ahead and did it on that podcast episode. But because the Roddy Piper stuff happened literally I think 12 hours after we'd already posted the newest episode, we went ahead and did a tribute because it was just something where it was too late, you know. It was going to be like a whole week afterwards, and it's just too much. But anyway, that being said, getting to this, yeah, so, I mean, we do talk about New Japan normally. We talk about, like, their big events, you know, like, I guess the next one, whether it's Destruction or or Pro Wrestling Kings or Kings of Pro Wrestling or whatever in September. We'll be doing a preview and a review of that show. We usually all get together and do it. That's what we're going to do for the final, actually. For the final, we'll not have a review by me. The final will have a review by the three of us. My two co-hosts, Gary and Paul. Like I've mentioned many times, Paul's the one that got us into doing New Japan or whatever, and I kind of fell in love with it, and now I've kind of made everybody else, or made us all do it every week. So, or not every week. Talk about when there's news every week, but we do the pay-per-views at least every month. So, that being said, let's get on to the action that happened on this night, or the two nights, I should say. The first one was in Sendai, in the Sendai Sun Plaza. It was a B block show for the G1 matches. The A block is obviously going to be in the tag matches that I'll talk about here. But anyway, let's get to this. The singles match, our first singles match in the undercard, because Tiger Mask is still injured. Looks like he might just be out for the rest of the tournament, seems like. That'd probably be the best thing for him at this point. So it'll be David Finlay Jr. against Ryusuke Taguchi. This was actually pretty good. I thought Finlay did pretty well here. Taguchi did every kind of ass offense you can imagine. Finlay was actually pretty funny. He did some ass offense to Taguchi to start, sort of. That kind of seated version that he does, where you're like sitting down and he just does it right to your face, which just seems really, really insulting. Finlay was just able to kind of withstand it all. He did his elbows, his uppercuts, a running senton into the corner like a cannonball. And he did a stretch muffler that makes him look much different than the other young lions who always use a single crab or the Boston crab or whatever. I really like that idea of Finlay having his own submission. Makes him different. I thought they worked really well together. Basically, they kind of... It forced Taguchi to have to start using stuff besides his ass. He had the enziguri out of a move after Finlay had been able to do the Finlay roll. He also he tried to do the Dodon, but Finlay countered into a roll-up. And then this is when we got two spots with the ankle lock. Finlay was able to get out one time. The second time, after the pin, Taguchi is able to turn it into an ankle lock. He's standing. Finlay almost gets to the ropes a couple times, and then he finally kneels down, and Finlay can't deal with it anymore, so he taps out. But like I said, an enjoyable match. If anybody who watches New Japan, you've seen so many young lion matches at this point. It's not really going to move the needle. But if you know nothing about these young lions or whatever, I thought it was a pretty good match. Enjoyed it quite a bit there. So, moving on, you got Toru Yano and Yoshihashi of the Chaos against Yohei Komatsu and Katsuyori Shibata. Shibata and Yano will be facing off in night 11. This is your basic tag match, really. You had Shibata and Yano start things out. Yano got like two kicks from Shibata, and he ran. He hilariously ran for his life and went to go tag in Yoshihashi. We got a long heat segment on Yohei Komatsu with Yano and Yoshihashi taking turns. Basically, we had a lot of slamming Yohei's head or whipping him into the exposed turnbuckle a bunch of times. I think he was thrown into the barricade a few times on the outside. Yoshihashi did his drop kick where you hang over the ropes kind of thing. But then Yano made a big mistake of knocking Shibata off the apron at one point. So Shibata just got pissed, and he just elbows Yano a ton into the corner to give him a basement drop kick. Then Yohei gets to make the comeback, but Yoshihashi gets a big lariat, a slam, and then he gets the swanton, and Yoshihashi and Yano win. Like I said, it wasn't anything that great, but yeah, so Yano and Yoshihashi win again. Another win for Yoshihashi in these tag team matches. So here was the standard of the undercard: Tetsuya Naito and Kushida, your IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, against Kota Ibushi and the CMLL World Welterweight Champion Mascara Dorada. Kushida and Dorada have had so many interactions over this time here that we've been watching it. It's kind of crazy. So we get more of that here. But we start with Ibushi and Naito as they try to build a bunch of tension to their match that they're going to have the main event of 9/11. Ibushi is not cool with Naito's antics at all, or Kushida for that matter, because Naito basically leaves him high and dry and walks all the way up to the ramp and just kind of stands there because Naito started the match whooping Ibushi. He attacked the ref, which didn't sit well with people. And then he tagged Kushida in. And then, like I said, he walked up the ramp. So he didn't walk up the ramp and leave. He just walked up the ramp and stood there. And Kushida's sitting there like, hello? What's going on here, man? You're still my tag partner. Why are you walking away? So either way, we have Kushida and Dorado go at it here. They have a lot of interactions. They've had them constantly, always. We get Dorado, I think, doing. Kushida does his cartwheel drop kick and all that kind of stuff, and we get a lucha arm drag to the outside. But then Naito actually pulls Dorado out and smacks him into the barricade. Just a little bit ago, he was on the ramp, just standing there, and then all of a sudden now he wants to help out Kushida and ram Dorado into the barricade. Just really weird. But that's what's cool. He's unpredictable. Makes you want to watch what he's doing because you never know what he's going to actually decide to do. Naito tags back into the match. So does Ibushi. Ibushi just goes wham, 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 wham with elbows into Naito. We get an elbow exchange, a running kick from Ibushi, a moonsault from Ibushi. Naito fires back with a drop kick to the face. He stands on Ibushi's face. He attacks the referee again. Then as we get to the home stretch, they just keep going at it on the outside. They just freaking ram each other the barricade. You can hear it. Dorado and Kushida come back and finish things as we get Kushida working on the arm. Dorado does a springboard back elbow. A beautiful counter into a lucha roll-up for a near fall. Kushida wins out there, and Kushida wins with the hoverboard lock, though. As Dorado tries to go for the screwdriver, and Kushida makes Dorado tap out. So we get seeds planted for this feud. They got to have this feud for the junior title at some point. They got to. They've teased it way too many times. They have to do it. Ibushi and Naito just continued to exchange blows for several minutes after the bell. I mean, they rang the bell so many times it was getting to the point where it was ringing in my ears. They were just really going after it. Naito wants to go in and get his hand raised, but Kushida wants to get their hand raised together. Naito keeps pushing Kushida away. Then Ibushi beats up Naito and whips him into the barricade. Naito has this smirk on his face like, that felt good. I know I got into his head. That's all I cared about. Really, really good match. Once again, one of those tag matches you might want to actually go out of your way to see. It was pretty fun. I quite enjoyed it. So let me get to the last tag match. Tamatanga, one of your IWGP Tag Team Champions, Doc Gallows, AJ Styles, and Bad Luck Fale of the Bullet Club, Captain New Japan, Hiroshi Tanahashi, the never openweight champion, Togi Makabe, who is Makabe, excuse me, not Makabe. I don't know what I'm doing there. He's facing AJ Styles in the co-main event. Hiroshi Tanahashi is facing Doc Gallows, and Hiroshi Tenzan is facing Bad Luck Fale, your NWA World Champion, Hiroshi Tenzan, by the way. You know what? This was what it was. The only interactions that kind of really matter were the ones of Makabe and Styles, lariats and drop kicks and whatever. There still wasn't anything, worth raving on about, honestly. It's just something that's kind of happening. It was something that just to get the tension going on for that match, honestly. They got the heat segment that lasted a long time on Tanahashi. Tenzan and Fale really did nothing. Captain New Japan, he pretty much, he's going to take the fall. This was something you could totally skip, honestly. So let's get on to the G1 matches. Michael Elgin against Yujiro Takahashi. And Michael Elgin might as well have been wrestling a broom. Because that's what Takahashi felt like in this match. It was Michael Elgin doing all the heavy lifting, literally and figuratively, of Yujiro just going through the motions of this match. I mean, Yujiro does his normal beatdown, all his normal beatdown stuff that's really not impressive at all. But Elgin's the one getting chants and cheers. He's commanding the crowd. He's carrying Yujiro through this. No one cares about Yujiro. I mean, I find it really hard for people to care at all about Yujiro because he doesn't care himself. So, I mean, you get an apron over the rope splash for a big reaction. You get the stalling suplex from Elgin. You get a German suplex into the corner that looked really nasty. The crowd went nuts for the dead left superplex that gets turned into a Falcon Arrow. Just great stuff from Elgin. And he, like I said, he lets the stuff breathe. It's not just him going through the motions, whatever, doing moves. They all seem to have a point. It's to build some stuff, and it's all fine. Yujiro has to use Cody Hall, the barricades, eye rakes, and other stuff to get an advantage. But I don't think there was any way Elgin was losing after this. He even goes out to the apron and does an apron senton on Cody Hall. I mean, this is how he really was going for it in this match. He blocks the Miami Shine, hits the buckle bomb, and then the Elgin bomb, and he wins. I mean, if you want to see a carry job by somebody, go watch this match. It's pretty much Elgin carrying Yujiro. It's nowhere near the other way around or anything where Yujiro really does anything of note. So that's what I would tell you. If you've been enjoying Elgin in this tournament, or you're saying that Elgin can't do it or whatever, totally disagree. Go watch this. Satoshi Kojima takes on Tomoaki Hanma. Kojima has 2 points. Oh, I should mention that makes Elgin have 6 points this tournament. So he's moving right along. I mean, he's probably not going to factor it all in the end, but not to mention 2 of those points he was not going to win against Nakamura, but they are what they are at this point. So Satoshi Kojima has 2 points. Tomoaki Hanma, the lone 0-pointer in this whole tournament. We got a nice call back to their tag match with an elbow exchange to the start. They didn't lock up, so they kept the intensity going here. But for me, this match just did not have the same intensity that the other Hanma matches do. The crowd didn't seem too into it. I mean, the crowd wasn't that great for this show, let's be honest. But it just felt like it was missing something. I don't know exactly what I could touch on, but it just didn't feel the same to me. Maybe it's because he tried like 4 or 5 times for different Kokeshis, and he missed them, including missing a Rocket Kokeshi that Kojima lariats while he's doing it. And then that leads to getting the Western Lariat for the win. I mean, it kind of seems to be a mixed bag for this match. People think it's just another solid thing by Kojima. Not that he did anything bad here, but it just felt like a match that was just kind of there. It didn't feel that great to me. Kojima hit a cutter. He hit a super cutter from the second rope. Hanma no-sold the German, blocked, both of them blocked lariats. Kojima used the other arm to hit a lariat. And then this is where Kojima blocks the lariat, blocks the Rocco Keshi, and then does the Western Lariat for the win. I mean, Hanma did his usual stuff, but I'm just saying this did not feel like the intensity of the other matches, honestly. You could probably skip it to be honest there. So the match that you shouldn't skip on this show, Yuji Nagata has 2 points against Tomohiro Ishii, who has 6 points of Chaos. This was intense. It built all the way through till the end. Nagata has been doing a wonderful job of throwing those ribs. And Ishii and Nagata got into an awesome elbow exchange at the beginning. Nagata won. They got into one again, and then Ishii started punching Nagata's ribs. This happened about 2 or 3 times where it looked like Nagata was getting an advantage. Ishii would go right to the ribs. And then just making Nagata get tired out by the fact that he's tiring himself out trying to battle in there, and then Ishii just says, bam, right to the ribs. So Nagata came back with kicks to the injured shoulder of Ishii. They were just beating the holy crap out of each other in this match, just pummeling each other. This was not missing that intensity at all. So this is definitely one that you need to watch. Nagata hits an exploder to stop the madness early, hits a super exploder. Later, Ishii hits a German suplex, he hits a superplex. Nagata has a nice counter for the lariat into the wide as armbar. Nagata, his best stretch was he did this rope assisted like swing neck breaker, and then he hit a knee lift in the corner, hit a back suplex for a near fall. He can't get the backdrop pin because his ribs are hurt, which once again plays into this match. I really enjoyed it because he can't get his finish because it requires him to bridge, which require him to use his ribs. So then, Ishii gets an enziguri to stop it. He no-sells an exploder from Nagata. Then he hits a huge lariat that sends Nagata just flipping. We get there's portions here where both guys are just they punch each other and they're down and they're just so in the exhaustion. Just great stuff of being able to tell you that, man, these guys they are worn out from this. And then they have this awesome slap fest pretty much at the end where it's just like bam, 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 and you could feel those slaps sitting in whether you're sitting in the crowd or you're sitting wherever it is you're watching it, just you could feel it happening there. Ibushi hits a headbutt, we get the sliding D and the brainbuster, and they win. Really enjoyed this match. Terrific performances. Both these guys have been having dynamite performances in the G1. Nagata's been selling those ribs for like three matches now. Just terrific stuff. I think you should definitely go watch this match. This is the match to watch from this show, honestly. So here's a rematch of the G1 2012 final. The first final that Okada ever won. He had to beat Anderson for it. So we do have that. We have two guys tied on 6 points with Kazuchika Okada, your IWGP Heavyweight Champion of Chaos, and then Carl Anderson with 6 points of the Bullet Club, your IWGP Tag Team Champion, or one of them. So, my issue with this G1 in general is we've been seeing a lot of the same spots. We've been seeing a lot of, okay, here's us going to the outside now. Okay, and here's us doing this, and here's us like hitting each other in the barricade, which happens like all the time, it seems like. All the time, hitting each other in the barricade, doing this, doing the same similar things. And at some point, it gets exhausting watching it. Knowing you've watched the same, basically Okada doing the same stuff, Anderson doing the same stuff where he kicks you off the ring apron or whatever, and makes you wait till the count of some count out spot. It's just, and especially they have really, and I understand these guys are tired. I understand that, and I understand that there's a place for this, and maybe I'm complaining and kind of being ignorant about it, but it just feels like it's happening way too often. Way too often. So, Okada and Anderson, like I said, they just love using outside in their matches, So, it's really wearing thin on me, and maybe it's not for a lot of other people, but just when you watch so many of these matches, and it felt like in Block A on Night 11, every match they went outside. Same thing with Block B on this night. Almost every match they went outside, did the whole whipping into the barricade thing. Like, how many times are you going to do that? I mean, I get that they don't use weapons in New Japan, really, or whatever. So, like, their weapon spot is the barricade. But it's just, it's a lot to go through to sit there and watch that. I mean, I'm wondering if I should just start keeping it on my notes when I transcribe, because here's my process. What I do is when I watch the match, and I'm old school because journalist and journalism background and all that stuff, I write the matches out on paper. I can type fast, and I could put Word over here, but I don't want to type out the whole thing because then I have to pick and choose what I want to put in for my actual thoughts on the written review. So what I do is I write it out, sort of like transcribing. Well, this happened here. Transcribing the whole match. Punches, kicks, whatever. So it's easy for me to go back to when I want to pick certain spots that I want to talk about or whatever, because a lot of these things are just like, there's other people doing this. I'm not going to lie. There's other people that are doing these things, and they just recap the match for you. And it's just like, you're not really, I mean, I understand that you're doing this because a lot of people that just, this is the way they're going to get into it and whatever, but I feel like just recapping the match for someone is kind of doing them a disservice. You need to explain to them why this match is great, or whatever, and some of them do that, and I'm not saying that all of them do, but it just, the whole recapping the entire match thing just seems monotonous and unnecessary. If you want to watch the whole match, just tell somebody that the match is worth watching, and they'll go find it. I mean, you should all be subscribing to New Japan World, but I understand that not everybody has the $8.50 a month or whatever, blah. But anyway, so getting on to this match, like I said, Okada does a lot of the time, or in this match, he does the same succession of like 3 countout spots really close to each other. And it's just, my God, now there's 3 of them in this match alone. Woof. So we do get a nice DDT, an elbow in the corner, a flapjack for a near fall. Anderson blocks the top rope elbow with a jumping kick and a package neck breaker that looked pretty awesome. Anderson's running powerbomb. He always does that pretty well. He hits a flying neck breaker off the top rope. So he just dives and hits a neck breaker on Okada. Both these guys are great at counters at the end of matches. Especially with the gun stun, like the RKO, whatever. You can hit it out of anywhere, and you don't have to have like a series of counters to be able to do it. But they do it well here. So Anderson goes for the gun stun. Okada counters and goes for a German. Anderson blocks, goes for the gun stun again. Okada does the same thing Nagata did, and he holds him up. And then he turns into the Tombstone, and Okada hits the Rainmaker. There's no other trying to block the Rainmaker again or anything like that after he hits the Tombstone. Tombstone, Rainmaker, we're done. This really felt not only anticlimactic in the ending, but it just felt there to me. They had a classic in 2012, and this didn't even approach that. To me, this was good, but it wasn't great. It wasn't anything that I'm going to go back and go, okay, yeah, this is something I'm watching again. No, it wasn't for me. It just wasn't that, great of a match or anything. So, it's like the Hamakojima. It's solid. They're working hard. They're doing the things we know they can do. But together, it just doesn't mesh to me. It's a match that does mesh for me. Shinsuke Nakamura on 4 points of chaos against the IWGP Intercontinental Champion, Hiroki Goto. The man that Hiroki Goto won it from, Shinsuke Nakamura. They've had 2 other matches just this year. They weren't that great. The second one in particular was a lot of just holds and holds and holds until we get like the last 5 minutes, and then it finally gets good. And then, I know Paul said it was match of your candidate. I don't agree with that necessarily, having rewatched it again. But this match, I don't know the match of your candidate or whatever, but I thought this was the best one because they turned up the pace a lot earlier than they do in the other matches. It's not them exchanging holds for like what seems like 10 minutes. So, they make it seem like they worked matches against each other, so you get that faster pace. Goto understands what he's got to do, and then he's also got that injured arm that he can work on here, which he does. He wrenches it around, he does a leg lock to it, and a few other things. But he kind of goes away from it to start hitting his big moves or whatever. And so it's weird because Nakamura's really selling it, and you don't really get Goto going for the arm very long because then he starts, going for the Rushi Kuroshi. He hits the Jitoku Kuruma, which is the Olympic Slam. We see him do the back suplex that he's known for. Nakamura does the front suplex and reverse power slam in tandem, which is really cool. Goto does a lariat. Nakamura actually counters Goto in a sleeper, but that's where he hits the Jitoku Kuruma. The crowd's sort of kind of getting into it here. They haven't gone full bore into it. Goto's able to block the Boma Yi, turn it into the Rushi Kuroshi. Then he hits a super Irushi Kuroshi for a near fall. Goto hits the Urashouten for 2. And then there's a nice series of counters that ends with Nakamura reversing a lariat into a cross arm breaker. And Goto really tries to keep his hands together so that they don't unclasp and that he can try to get out of it. But alas, he ends up tapping out to that cross arm breaker. Another move that now Nakamura can use to his advantage and show that he can make people tap out as well and not just use the Boma-E. I liked it because it was different. It was something that Nakamura doesn't do. He hasn't done for a while. I enjoyed it, and I hope this becomes a narrative for Nakamura because the whole Boma-E isn't protected anymore, and he just uses it so many times. It's like, well, when's this one going to be the one? Okay, well, I don't feel like I can believe in what's going on there, so. All right, so after night 10, just a refresher on the A block, Katsuri Shibata has 8 points. Tetsuya Naito, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kota Ibushi, AJ Styles, Togi Makabe, and Bad Luck Fale have all 6 points. Toru Yano, Hiroshi Tenzan, and Doc Gallows all have 2 points. That's the A block. B block now, Kazuchika Okada and Tomohiro Ishii both have 8 points. Hiroki Goto, Carl Anderson, and Shinsuke Nakamura all have 6 points. Michael Elgin, Satoshi Kojima, and Yujiro Takahashi have 4. Yuji Nagata has 2, and Tomoaki Hama has a big fat 0. They had their first great show last time out. This wasn't so great. It wasn't bad either. I recommend you watching Nagata and Ishii and that third tag match because those are pretty good. Really enjoyed that. Nakamura and Goto is also worth watching. If you've watched the other 2 matches, you might feel a little fatigued, but I still liked it. And I think if you haven't watched any of their matches before, this is the one to watch. It's probably the best one. I would say that here. That's the best one to watch in this entire collection of their matches. So, on night 11, which was in Iwate, Japan, inside the Iwate Industrial Bunker Center, Peel, they went back to the single camera show for this. It was also a darkened arena pretty much when the wrestlers came out. Not only when the wrestlers came out, but also when they wrestled. You could not see the crowd at all. They were pitch black around the ring, and then the ring would be lit up like normal, so you could see what's happening in the ring, but you don't see what's happening in the crowd at all or anything, unless they zoom in with that hard camera, or I think they have like a second camera situated for that. And, unless something big happens where they try to attack each other on the outside, or maybe, something else happens out there, there's parts of it you're not going to get because they go way too far to the right or way too far to the left, or it's out of the camera's focus or whatever. But just warning you, if you go back and watch this, this is a one-cam show. So, getting on with the matches, 6-man tag matches. Your opening match, Yohei Komatsu, Yuji Nagata, and Satoshi Kojima against Michael Elgin, Hiroki Goto, and Mascara Dorada. Michael Elgin is facing off against Yuji Nagata because he's already faced Kojima. And that means Hiroki Goto is facing off against Kojima on the next night of B block matches. So, this is your basic 6-man tag. Everyone was paired off against one another. Kojima and Goto got some signature stuff in with their Goto's comeback and then Kojima doing the chops and elbows in the corner and then trying to be, working through here. I thought, Elgin giving Nagata the stalling suplex was pretty good looking here. But they really didn't have a whole lot of interactions. Dorada hit a springboard crossbody, which was really nice looking. Yohei got a running elbow and a necklock suplex for 2, which caused everything to kind of break down. They had a few nice counters. Eventually stuff got to the point where we got to the end. Dorada screwdriver, and that was enough for the win. Still, once again, even though you get the appearance by Ronda Rousey, I still think it's not that big of a show. Or not big of a show, big of a match to be watching, honestly. So your third match, Tama Tonga and Yujiro Takahashi against Shinsuke Nakamura and Tomohiro Ishii. This was fun. It also felt long in others because of Yujiro doing stuff. Anytime Yujiro does stuff, it's not very entertaining at all. So he worked on Nakamura's arm for a long, long time, which is fine because it adds into the psychology of their match, the next night on Thursday. They are meant to do that. They're meant to set up psychology and all that kind of stuff for next week so that Yujiro has something to work on. Tama Tonga looked good in here. He did a crossroads at one point. He did all his stuff that you normally see him doing, which is pretty good offense, actually. We get the hot tag, and Nakamura seems to be healing more and more each day as he's using that arm a lot more. Nakamura and Ishii have 3 cool tag team moves almost in succession. They do a reverse double suplex. Nakamura had Tonga up for a fireman's carry and then transitioned it right into a suplex by Ishii. And a Boma Yi and sliding D was your finish, I think. So yeah, that was it for that tag match. But this was actually pretty fun, and I'm glad that we got to, Ishii and Nakamura are friends. They're in the same stable. It's glad to know that they practice tag moves and could do that. It made the match much more interesting than otherwise just watching all these other fans want to get in, want to do this, want to do that, and then So I really liked that tag match, and I liked the next tag match as well. I didn't like it as much as the first, that first one I talked about, but so this is a 6-man tag. You got Okada, Geto, and Yoshihashi against Captain New Japan, Ryusuke Taguchi, and Kazuchika or not Kazuchika, Kushida. Sorry. Your IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. What sucked here is you don't get any interactions between Kushida and Okada. They missed the boat here on that. No junior against heavyweight champion. Should have been doing it. But either way, pretty much, you got Taguchi and Captain New Japan on the same team. So you can pretty much assume what's going to happen here. C&J wanted him some of Okada, and Okada obliged with a swift boot to the face. There was a heat segment on Taguchi with the crowd bought into because they cheered for Taguchi several times. Tagged to Kushida. Kushida best offense with a cartwheel dropkick to Geto, hitting a standing moonsault. A double standing moonsault on both guys as Yoshihashi comes in, he gets knocked down. And then he hits a moonsault off the top rope on Geto as well. Captain New Japan did get Okada back with his, he does his headbutt off the top. And Okada's held down there so that Captain New Japan can do something. And then, basically, when Okada comes in, he comes in and cleans house. He takes out Captain New Japan. And then, we get the Rainmaker, and that's it. This was fun. It had some good spots. And, Kushida made it worthwhile for the face team. But would have really loved to see Okada against Kushida here. So, we get our G1 matches for night 11. The first one up is Hiroshi Tenzan against Bad Luck Fale. This was someone put it on Twitter, this was like 2 big turtles going at it. No mobility. Fale is so big, he can't move that much either. We get Mongolians. Lariats, elbows that filled up a bunch of time. We did get a rolling kick from Tenzan, which was his highlight. And the Anaconda Vice, but Fale is able to stand him up and get out of it. I think I almost fell asleep at one point watching this at 7:38 in the morning after having been up since 4. So Tama Tonga got involved to help keep Tenzan from hitting the headbutt. He knocked him off the ropes. So he got back in the ropes, and we went at it again. And eventually Bad Luck Fale wins with a splash from the top rope. The one he did, he did against Tanahashi or whatever. And yeah, I think the faster we away from this, the better. Because this was just a stinker. So, something that wasn't a stinker but was a total surprise. Katsuyori Shibata against Toru Yano. Yano is sitting there trying to... What did Yano do? So, he threw water at Shibata. And then Shibata got pissed off. He took Yano's jacket, shoved it in his face, elbowed him with the jacket on his face, and then basement dropkicked him with the jacket on his face in the corner. Just great stuff, and just shows the fury and anger of Shibata here. As Yano got 2 close-up roll-ups, but Shibata kicked out. Yano did his break routine, but Shibata was not going to do that, and he elbowed him while he's sitting there yelling break. Booted him and everything because he's not going to sit there and let Shibata, beat him. or Shibata's not gonna sit there let Yano beat him. So Shibata gets to the sleeper him, and Yano makes it to the ropes. Shibata gets pissed and puts in the Fuji Aroma, but Yano counters for a roll up, and that's it. Shibata loses in an upset fashion, and now the other guys in the block can tie up Katsuyori Shibata for 8 points, and we already saw Bad Luck Fale do it. So moving it along. Hiroshi Tanahashi with 6 points against Doc Gallows for 2 points. Thankfully, they kept this short. It was good. It wasn't anything great. It was good. Tenzan got the most he could out of Gallows here. Or not Tenzan. Tanahashi. Gallows controlled a lot of this match. He beat up Tanahashi. He did all the stuff, putting in the holds and all that stuff. Eventually, Tanahashi comes back. After Gallows missed the second rope elbow, Gallows botched it, and then Tanahashi came in. And what did he do? I think he wound up just buying it. I think. Let me see what's going on, because I think. Yeah. Well, anyway. We get Gallows hitting the one-man magic killer. Oh, yeah. Okay, here's the part that I was trying to get to. The spot here, there's a spot here that Gallows misses after the second rope elbow as Tanahashi is trying to do a standing high fly flow, and Tanahashi jumps so that Gallows can just goozle him and chokeslam him. Well, he loses grip of him. He has to let him all the way down to bring him back up, so it looks bad. He does get the chokeslam for 2. And then we see Gallows hit the one-man magic killer for a near fall. The crowd went nuts when we saw a jackhammer, and they bought that as a finish, sort of. And then Tanahashi wins thanks to countering the Gallows pole into a roll-up. So Gallows looks strong in defeat. Tanahashi kept winning. Tanahashi wins to get up to 8 points as another person that's now tied with Shibata. And that loss by Shibata is already being felt as a big time thing here, or that loss for Shibata, I should say. So we get to the semi-main event, AJ Styles against Togi Makabe. We get a barricade spot pretty early here as they took it to the crowd. This is also weird because there were times where the crowd seemed into AJ and Makabe was dominating. Then when AJ went onto the Heat Force, the people were cheering for Makabe, as you would expect. The great way about how AJ's been booked on G1 is he hasn't really needed interference from the Bullet Club, at least in the singles matches or whatever. In other matches that didn't matter, we've seen the Bullet Club or whatever. But AJ has kind of kept to the lone wolf of the club, showing that he can do it wrestling-wise, which he should, because that's a great way that people cheer AJ Styles when you get to the G1 where maybe the Bullet Club's disbanded or something like that. So the match picked up when Makabe made his comeback. He had his usual lariats and 10 punches. We see AJ suplex in the corner, reversed. He did. We get what is it? We get a springboard this is where we get a springboard DDT, or no, we get the AJ going for another Northern Lights. He could switch it into a Northern Lights suplex. We get a springboard DDT by AJ, but he can't get the Styles Clash because Makabe is too big. He tries to counter the Spider German, but he has to wind up not. He has to just wind up going. He has to wind up getting off the ropes, hitting the springboard forearm for a near fall. Makabe whacks AJ with a lariat that turns him inside out, hits a powerbomb, but AJ moves and avoids the King Kong knee drop. He counters the lariat, the Pele, and gets a Styles Clash for the win. The oomph that comes out of the air when Styles hits Styles Clash is crazy. Just Styles Clash, oh, you know it's over. And that's kind of how it should be, really. But yeah, so AJ again gets more points. This is probably the best match up to this point, but it's not saying a whole lot. I thought it was just good. It wasn't great or anything. So here's the one match you should go out of your way to see out of this show. Tetsuya Naito and Kota Ibushi, both with 6 points. Naito continually attacks Red Shoes, or has been continually attacking Red Shoes in past matches or whatever. So Naito's taking forever to take off his jacket. Kota Ibushi's pissed. It's about to be, I think, like 12 or something like that. And we get Kota Ibushi just getting upset at Naito. So then, when he does get upset, Naito just wails on him. I mean, in anger at the fact that he had the gall to interrupt what he's doing, his entrance or whatever it is. So, it is what it is. But that was the point. Naito got really incensed here. He just beat him up. We go to the outside, I think, if I'm not mistaken, here. Yeah, he whips him into the barricade. They brawl into the crowd as well. Ibushi gets knocked into some chairs. I get that there's, like I said before, we get the whole thing about the barricade and they want to sell it the matches or against these guys that want to win at all costs or whatever, but doing a near count-off spot every match is annoying. Anyway, so we get to, what is this, Naito starts working on the neck with a nasty neck breaker on the ring apron, and then he keeps working through the match. Does Ibushi after this. So Ibushi is able to counter and hit a corkscrew moonsault for a 2 count. Naito comes back and hits the play. Naito comes back and does... he plants Ibushi with a tornado DDT. He hits a drop kick off the top rope and goes right into his patented corner drop kick. Naito spits on Ibushi after this. Ibushi counters with a running Rana and then sends Naito to the floor. And then Ibushi does his awesome springboard moonsault here, too. So, for some reason, for a long time, everybody's been saying that Naito's this just genius guy when it comes to this psychology. He's a super psychology guy. But you don't see it so much in the face because he's doing high flying stuff or whatever. But here, he's just working the neck, doing constant stuff with the neck. And so when he does that Puma Blanco, the Koji clutch, it just really works with the neck here. Ibushi really has to strain to get to the ropes. After that, we just get a big series of huge moves that work together cohesively to get to the finish. Naito hits a reverse Rana off the top rope, a reverse CDT, and a German suplex, almost all in one sequence. Ibushi counters with Naito. Counters Naito with hitting a Mori driver, last ride powerbomb, but he misses the Phoenix Splash, and this is doing more damage to the neck when he misses it. So they get into an elbow exchange, and it really shows how much they've been through a lot. Let's see what happened here. Yeah, so he does more damage to the neck with that. Ibushi flips out of a dragon suplex by Naito, but then Naito hits a rolling kick, gets the dragon suplex, then hits his finisher, which people are calling the Destino, which is the Destiny. Really great match, best match of the show. You should go out here to watch it, because this really again shows you a lot of Naito's heel character all in one match here. If you're kind of skeptical about Naito and whether his heel character is entertaining, I'd say watch this because you will be entertained after this. Then Naito attacks on the referee again afterwards. And, yeah. Then Naito cuts a promo saying he is not New Japan, he's not Chaos, he's not Bullet Club, it's all about Ingobernables. So, yeah. So those are both nights. We are starting to hit the home stretch here of the G1. We'll be just rushing into the last week of the G1. My goodness. It feels like this hasn't been around that long. But I'll be kind of glad when we get there. It's been a long haul. But we have 3 matches. Or not 3 matches. 3 shows. I'm just blanking at this point. I've had like an hour of sleep. I'm still doing this on no sleep, by the way. So we have 3 matches here. Or not 3. Again, 3 matches here. 3 shows that are going to happen Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This show wasn't that great, honestly. It's a 1-match show. Maybe 2 matches if you really like the style of the Makabe match. Go watch Naito and Ibushi. You can probably skip the rest of it. Skip the rest of the G1 matches for sure, except for maybe AJ and Makabe. The undercard was really nothing. Just Just go watch Naito Ibushi. You won't be wrong on that. So, like I said, the tournament takes the night off tomorrow or Thursday or whatever. Then they will hit Hamamatsu for the last single camera show. It will be a B block show, which is going to be headlined by Tomohiro Ishii and Kazuchika Okada. Shinsuke Nakamura and Yujiro Takahashi are going to be your other main event. My God, I hope that gets moved or something. We're also going to get after that on Saturday. They're going to be going to the last stop on the tour before they do 6 nights in Tokyo. They're going to go to Yokohama for A block, which is going to feature a huge match that can determine a whole lot of things in the A block here. Hiroshi Tanahashi and Katsuri Shibata is your main event. My goodness, that's going to be wonderful. Just, you don't want to miss that match, because I know it's going to be epic, because it's going to determine what happens with Tanahashi and with Shibata. And we're already going to know where AJ and Fale and all them stand before then, so this is going to be really interesting here. If I'm not mistaken, I think AJ actually wrestles. Is it Fale for this the co-main, or not the co-main? That maybe somewhere in this card we get. I think it is this one. Let me look here. Let me see. So going back down to this card of August 8th. No, it's AJ and Hiroshi Tenzan. Which Tenzan hasn't won a lot, so he could play spoiler for Styles. You're going to get Makabe and Doc Gallows, Tetsuya Naito against Toru Yano, and Kota Ibushi against Bad Luck Fale on that card. So I should run down the card for Friday. It's Yohei Komatsu and Jay White, so our second singles match here. Young Lions singles match. I always enjoy those. Those are really entertaining. David Finlay and Tetsuya Naito against Yoshihashi and Toru Yano. Whew. Getting to watch how Naito's going to react to Yano is going to be hilarious. Captain New Japan, Kota Ibushi and Togi Makabe again, and Hiroshi Tenzan against Tomotonga, Bad Luck Fale, Doc Gallows, and AJ Styles. So yeah, there's that. Máscara Dorada, Kushida and Hiroshi Tanahashi against Ryusuke Taguchi, Tiger Mask, who that will probably get changed to a tag, because I don't think Tiger Mask can be there for that. Katsuri Shibata will be there in that match too. I would imagine that maybe they'll take out Dorada, and we'll get a Kushida and Hiroshi Tanahashi against Taguchi and Shibata match or something like that. You got Yuji Nagata against Michael Elgin, which should be really good. You got Tomoaki Hama against Carl Anderson, which could be interesting. I've just kind of lost faith in Anderson these last few matches here. Satoshi Kojima against Hiroki Goto should be good. Hopefully they're not running through the motions. Hopefully it's actually pretty good. Nakamura and Yujiro, man, I guess if there's anybody that can really carry Yujiro, aside from Elgin, it'll be Nakamura here probably. Okada against Tomohiro Ishii should be amazing. I'm hoping that we get some good stuff here from them. So, like I said, we already talked about Hamamatsu. We already talked about I talked about Yokohama. The last show of this weekend begins the Kurikan shows. The first 3 Kurikan shows that we're going to get. And then they'll do 3 nights in Sumo Hall. So the first Kurikan show is going to be headlined by a double main event of Hiroki Goto and Tomohiro Ishii and Tomoaki Hama against Shinsuke Nakamura. Nakamura and Hama have kind of had a little thing going on in tag matches before this tournament started and stuff, so that's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Goto and Ishii is supposed to be the main event. You also got Okada against Yujiro. Ugh. Satoshi Kojima against Yuji Nagata, the 2 veterans going at it. That should be interesting. And then Michael Elgin and Carl Anderson, the 2 Gaijins going at it. That should be fun as well. So, man, looks like we got a weekend full of action happening. The tournament really should be... We should know where a lot of this is going to land by the time we get to Sunday. Probably. I would say. Especially after that Hiroshi Tanahashi and Bad Luck Fale match. Not Bad Luck Fale. Hiroshi Tanahashi and Katsuri Shibata match. You're going to get some good stuff there. you're gonna get definitely some good stuff there. So, all right. So that about does it for these 2 nights of the G1. I should be back to the single shows as long as New Japan World doesn't have another problem. Because everything's at 5:30 a.m. Eastern until the day of the final. Everything's 5:30 a.m. Eastern, 2:30 a.m. Pacific from here on out until you get to the final, which will be at 2 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific on the 16th or 15th, depending on where you live. So, all right, I've broken down everything. I've told you where the standings are. Or did I? For that, for the A block one, I don't think I did actually. Let me go down here. So, yeah, you have Shibata, Naito, Hiroshi Tanahashi, AJ Styles, and Bad Luck Fale all tied at 8 points. Kota Ibushi, Togi Makabe at 6 points. Toru Yano has 4 points. Hiroshi Tenzan and Dog Gallows have each 2 points. So probably look for Tenzan and Gallows to play spoilers later on as we get closer when we want to really start trying to figure out who's making that final. But yeah, I've broken down everything for you. Hopefully you enjoy these. Not many of these left, but hopefully you have been enjoying them. You can let me know. You can drop me you can tweet at us at Wrestling2Max without the on Twitter. You can join the W2M Facebook group where we have over 600 members right now. We're still growing, you know. We don't have like a billion people that talk New Japan in there, but if you like other things besides New Japan, there's plenty for you to talk about in there with people. Always something active going on. Very interesting to talk with the people in there always. Always talking about news. There's threads for Raw and the other shows and the pay-per-views and all that stuff. So interesting on that point. Like I said, we'll have a regular show Thursday night, Friday morning on demand, which we're available on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, all the places where there are podcasts. Really, we are available. We're available on websites. We're available other places. So yeah, go check us out. Go to Last Word on Sports. In their LWS Extra section, you'll see the pro wrestling part. I have all my written reviews there of all the G1 nights. You can check that out as well. Well, until Friday at some point, should be Friday afternoon, we'll be talking about night 12 of the G1. All right, until then, remember to always live life to the max. And you know it because you're not living life at all if you're not living life to the max, people. You know it. Please.